Thank you. Thank you. And you can.
Thank you so much, Nikhilesh. Hello, everyone. My name is Ishmeet Bindra, and I'm working as a senior RP developer in Wunderman Thompson. And I think most of my introduction is already covered wonderfully by Nikhilesh. So I'm just going to start with the session. So today we are gathered to talk about document understanding and long-running workflows. So without any delay, let us look at the agenda. Today's agenda is to talk about long-running workflows. We are specifically going to discuss about the persistent activities and the orchestration template. Then we are going to dive. Then we are going to dive into document understanding, and we are going to talk about a couple of extractors, and finally we are going to discuss validation stations. So let's start with the first topic, which is long-running workflow. Before discussing long-running workflows, I would just like to call out what are long-running processes. Long-running processes are essentially those processes which are waiting for most of the time. Okay, so the process itself might be just a couple of seconds long, like it might take just a couple of seconds to execute, but it is just that those processes are programmed. It might be programmed in an asynchronous way so that whenever an input arrives or whenever some kind of a validation comes in or whenever some pipeline is built, then that process has to kick in. So those kind of processes that wait for most of their lifetime are known as long running processes. In order to tackle or in order to implement a similar kind of a technique in UiPath, we have long running workflows, or these are also known as orchestration workflows. So orchestration workflows, first thing, they specifically contain persistent activities. We are going to see an example of what kind of activities does this UiPath persistent package covers. But essentially, you can create these allow you to embed human in the loop concept within your workflow. These long-running workflows run in session zero. So what do we mean by session zero? Session zero means that session zero essentially is a specialized Windows session that runs all of the GUI components in an isolated environment. So what happened is that before Windows XP, and you can also think of it like before Windows Server 2003, everything that was related to the GUI experience of Windows was running in the was running in admin mode, was running with elevated privileges. Now this was fine till then, but soon it was figured out that anyone could actually exploit the bugs that were available in the existing system just to get the elevated privileges of the Windows environment. So, for example, they could exploit the GUI of Windows that is having elevated privileges to either implement some kind of a bug or to hack a particular PC. So, in order to isolate all the Windows default components, and in order to avoid all of these kind of attacks, what Windows did was they implemented a session zero concept. In session zero concept, the entire Windows workflow run in a different environment, and it is not accessible directly. What happens in here is, in order to access this, you have to actually log on with the help of a user ID and password, and you have to switch to this particular session. Now UiPath takes benefit of this particular session zero, and why we should be knowing about this session zero. The reason is that the operations that are being performed in session zero are really firstly runs really efficiently, and the operation times are really low because the overhead cost is really low. Because think about it, the entire Windows GUI is running in session zero only, so it has to be really smooth. So this particular session is actually given priority when it comes to the resources. So that is the main reason why we see that the long running workflows, the whatever workflow you're going to create in them are run in session zero. Coming back to long running workflow. So long running workflow, now again discussing about the definition of long running workflows. So you can think of long running workflows as a master workflow that allows service orchestration, that allow human intervention within the bot, and they also allow any kind of triggering of UI processes. So what is a service automation? Consider you are having a couple of background processes that needs to be triggered on a specific at a specific time, but you don't want to, you don't want to track or keep a track of anything, keep a track of, or build in a specific tracker in each and every background process. What you want to do is you want a master project or a master workflow that can actually keep a track of when I have to trigger a specific background process. So you can actually use long running workflow since they run in session zero. So obviously they are not going to interact with your session. So you can actually use long running workflows to keep a track of when specific background process has to be triggered. And then they can actually trigger those background processes on the given time. Then they can also trigger UI based processes with the help of start job. So definitely here we have orchestrator component also enabled, because in order to start a particular job, we need to have that particular job connected to orchestrator, and our PC also configured and connected to orchestrator. And the most beneficial part of long running workflow is human in the loop. So before this particular concept, the only option that we had was to create multiple queues for a single process. So let's say there is some kind of an exception occurred in your process while going through a particular while going through all the steps of your process. One of the steps failed. Now what might happen, you might think that, okay, what I can do is I can actually create some kind of a task in orchestrator, but how are you going to ask your bot to continue when that task is completed in an action center? The basic idea was that I can actually send that once the task has been completed, I can actually ask the person to enter a new item in another queue, and my bot can then fetch that data from another queue and continue its processing. So in this case, you have two queues. One is your master queue and another one is human validation queue. So think of it like not only you are actually you can say that you are dependent on some human to add some task in the queue. You're also introducing some extra resources in your already might be possible already quite complicated process. So in order to streamline this, what we have is we have a human in the loop concept baked in the long running workflows, and using the persistent activities, what we can do is we can actually create some task in the task some task in the action center of UiPath, which is available in the orchestrator, and then we can ask a human or anyone to validate it, and then bot can essentially continue with the same input or where it actually left. So let us see with the help of an example. Let me just open my screen. And okay, so first thing that you have to do in order to create an orchestration workflow is to click on orchestration process here. Whenever you're going to click here, a new template is going to be created for you, and you will be greeted with this kind of a screen similar to this. You can see that by default, we are having UiPath persistent activities. And let us have a look in it, like what all activities we are having here. So you can see that we are having a couple of activities available here. So we are having jobs. We can actually start a job and get its reference. We can wait for a job to be completed and then probably resume our existing workflow. Then we also have some of the activities that are related to a particular queue. So we can add an item into a queue and get its reference, or we can wait for some item to be added in the queue and then continue our workflow. And finally, what we can actually do is we are also having a couple of other activities which are specifically related to tasks. So what are these activities? So these activities allow you to create a task in in the orchestrator. These activities allow you to assign a task to someone in the orchestrator, and they also allow you to wait for a task to be completed so that bot could continue its processing. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you how to create a form-based task, and how to assign it to yourself, and to how to continue the bot, how to continue the processing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a task title here. Let's give it task or information gathering. Now, the second option tells us that we can assign the task priority. What is task priority? Task priority is nothing, but you can actually assign priority of the task. These we are having three levels: medium, high, and low. So you can give it any kind of you can give any kind of priority here, and what you can actually do is you can actually tell a specific user that what like it is kind of a representation for the user to whom this particular task is going to be assigned, like how quickly he has to complete this task. Then comes task catalog. This particular field is actually used for categorizing a particular task. So let me show you one thing in the orchestrator. Okay, so if you will go to our platform.uipath.com, in here, open your orchestrator. And right in here, what you're going to notice is we are having action catalogs option available. What this catalog option is going to allow you to do is you can actually create your own catalog option here. So let me create one here. I can say long running example. So this is my catalog, and I can say here demo catalog. So I've created one category here. Okay. Now I can simply copy this name and I can go back to my workflow and I can assign the catalog here. Okay. Now it is asking me to design a form. In order to design a form, I need to have form activities. I need to have form activities available on my machine. So what are these form activities? Please keep in mind that the task activity come by default in orchestration process, but in order to create a form, you need to have form activities enabled. And as you can see here, the UiPath is also telling us that we need to have this particular activity installed. So I'm just going to open my package manager and I'm going to install the activity that is being informed by UI, that is being informed. So we have to install UiPath form activity library. So I'm just going to go here and install UiPath.form.activity. Okay, I'm going to install this one. It's taking some time to be installed. Once this library is installed, what you're going to notice is we will be having options to create form. Now in form, you can actually do a lot of things, and I would highly suggest you to watch any of Path's or Nisarg's or Vajrang's video because they have done an excellent job in explaining how form activity work. I'm just going to scrape the surface here by telling you how to create a very, very basic form. So let us just wait for this to be completed. And yes, as you can see here, the the form designer option has been enabled now. I'm going to click here. And let us wait for this option to be loaded. And you can see that a default structure is loaded for us. Let us delete this entire thing and let us create a form from scratch. So I'm just going to create a very basic form. I'm going to add a to text area. I'm going to ask the user to enter name. And let us set the key. Let us copy the key as well. Let us hit on save. And I'm going to ask the user to enter age. And let us do one thing. Okay, let us copy its key as well. And let us hit on save. And what I'm going to do is I'm also going to provide user a button. This is essentially going to be a submit button. And once the user hits submit here, he can essentially send the form details back. So I'm just going to hit save here as well. I'm going to save my form and I'm going to close it. Very basic form. And once this form has been created, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create my task object, which is the output of this particular activity. task underscore object. So what happens here is this particular task object is nothing but an object that allows us to keep a track of whether a specific task has been completed in the action center or not. Okay. So with everything set, and we are also having our output in task object, let me just grab my wait activity. Wait for job and resume. No. Wait for form task and resume. Okay, so what this activity is going to do, this activity is actually going to accept the input from the user, and this activity is actually going to show, is going to, is going to allow us to actually, you can say, it's actually going to allow us to access the input of the user that has been entered in the orchestrator, and we can use that input within our workflow. So I'm just going to add an input, add the task object here. Task object. This is the object that is declared in my create form task activity, and this object is going to be used to keep a track of the task that has been created in the orchestrator. Then I'm going to add a task or action, task underscore action variable, and finally I'm going to add output task object. So this is my output. I can access everything with the help of this particular output. Finally, I'm going to add a log message here in order to show you how the output looks like. And here I'm going to say wait. And let's add a breakpoint here as well. So let's run this workflow. And as you can see here, a form task has been created in the orchestrator. Okay, and right now you can read this message. Execution has been suspended and is waiting for the external events to complete. What are external events? External events is in this case, external event is nothing but your orchestrator task that is to be completed. And here, as you can see, we are waiting for a task to be completed. So let me just open my workflow first, open orchestrator first, and let me go here. So in order to access the task, what you need to do is you need to go to actions in your automation cloud, and here under unassigned, because keep in mind that as of now, we have not assigned this particular task to anyone. Okay, so under unassigned task, we are having the task that we created a couple of seconds ago. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign this task to myself, because without doing that, I cannot enter anything here. And I'm going to enter my name, Ishmeet Bindra, and let's say an age, so 25, and I'm going to hit on submit. I'm going to mark it as complete, and that's it. With that, our task has been completed. And now here you might be noticing that even though I have submitted my task, it is still waiting here. And actually you might be thinking that we have to hit on resume for this task to be completed. While development, you will notice this. That this particular wait for activity will not resume on its own. But once you are in production, or once you have deployed this particular process anywhere, what you will notice that this particular process is automatically going to run without you pressing any kind of a button. So as of now, we have to hit on resume just during while development, and you can see this particular activity has completed its job. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to analyze the output. So I'm going to use the immediate panel for this, and in here, if I will type, let us see the task action first. So you can see that task action is equal to submit. Submit, why it is submit? Because if you remember, the button that we created was named submit. Let me see if I am having a completed task here. This is 5 months ago. Let me see, 2 minutes ago. Okay. So you can see that the button is named submit, and the action that we took was submit. Okay, so we can even keep a track of the action that we took. But let's finally talk about the data that we received. So output task object, you can see that in output task object, we are having our data available as a JSON object and we can see that we are having 2 items available in here. One is Ishmeet Bindra and another one is 25. Let's try to access them. So I can say here dot data. If I will do data here, also one more thing that I would like to call out here. See, whenever you're dealing with immediate panel and whenever you're dealing with any kind of data type that you have, not dealt with earlier, Just try to see, and at least I see this particular thing working very well in UiPath. Just try to see what what is the attribute, in which your data is available. So I can easily see here that under action, action is available, which is submit, and under data, my data is available as a JSON array. So what I can do here is, if I type dot data here, I will be getting just that JSON array. Okay, so this is the kind of thing that you want to do. And if I do, let me just see if I can do something else here. So essentially what you need to do is you need to now use the JSON conversion activities, or the JSON conversion activities in order to convert this particular array, or sorry, this particular JSON object into your normal array, and then you can work with this in order, and then you can use this in your remaining workflow. So let me just show you the activities, and in order, looking at the time, I think it is better that I will just show you which activity you have to use, and then I will move to document understanding. So in here, you have to use UiPath.web web activities. So I'm just going to install this. And this package is going to allow you to deserialize a JSON. So what do we mean by deserializing a JSON? Deserialization in any context essentially means converting the data from one, converting a serialized data or data available in one data type to another data type. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say deserialize JSON, deserialize JSON array, and let me see, let me just do one thing. Let me get this particular output, this particular text from here, from my immediate panel. And now let us place it here. So I'm just going to say data. Oh, I'm sorry. Visualize JSON. Here is my JSON string. So once you deserialize this JSON like this, you will be getting an output like an array, and essentially you can use it for, you have to actually change the type argument to array as well. So I can change it to array of string or array of object, because we saw that this was an array of JSON object. So, and you can create an output here as well. Output array. You will be getting an output in the terms of an array, and you can use it in the remaining process. You can use this particular thing in your remaining process for the final execution. But as you noticed here, you can create a particular task in the orchestrator using create form task activity, and this activity, which is wait for form task and resume. This is going to allow you to wait for a particular task to be completed. And until and unless that a task is completed, this is going to wait. And this is actually what we mean when we say long running workflow, because even though the entire workflow might take just a couple of minutes to be completed, the waiting time is the time that actually decides or categorizes this to a special category. So most of the time our workflow will be waiting for some kind of an input. Okay, with that, let us go back to our slides. And let us talk about document understanding. So document understanding is essentially a practice of creating a particular model that will allow you to process or extract data from multiple different kinds of document and you can actually intelligently extract the data from those documents with the help of either machine learning models or with the help of form extractors or even regular expressions. So in order to start with document understanding, you start with taxonomy. What is taxonomy? So the taxonomy is a practice of classifying things. What happens here is you might be having different kinds of documents available with you. For example, one could be invoice, another one could be, let's say, hospital bill, and so on and so forth. So you have to classify documents into specific categories or specific groups, and then you have to process them. Once you classify your documents into groups and categories, a taxonomy.json file is created, in your project directory. This taxonomy.json file creates all the contains all the information about your document, what data you want to extract, and that is why this particular data is used by all the subsequent activities to know that, okay, from this particular document I have to extract this kind of data. This is the concept due to which we don't have to actually create multiple workflows for different kinds of data, for different kinds of document. Because think about it, if I have to extract different sets of data from different types of document, I have to actually create some sort of mapping for that. And taxonomy.json is that mapping, that maps a document type to the output expected. Now with that, we in order to install taxonomy manager, we need to install UiPath intelligent OCR activities. So in order to install this, what you have to do is you have to again load your package manager. In order to load the package manager, I'm sorry, I skipped this particular point last time. You can either press Control P or you can hit on Manage Packages. So just by pressing Control P, you can load your package manager. And as you can see here, I'm having UiPath intelligent OCR activities already installed. Once you install this, you go back here. Okay. Once you have installed this, what you're going to notice is a new option is going to pop out. This new option is going to be Taxonomy Manager, and this option is going to be available in the Design tab of UiPath Studio. In order to define taxonomy for a particular document, you need to understand what kind of details you want to extract from a particular document. And for that, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open a sample invoice. So this is the sample invoice that we are going to use today. And from here, we are going to extract a couple of details such as date, invoice number, and total amount. These are the fields that we are going to extract. And for doing this, let us see how can we define or how can we define the taxonomy. So I'm just going to load my taxonomy manager. And in here, in order to save some time, actually I've already defined the taxonomy, but still I'm going to show you how to do that, how to define any kind of document within the taxonomy manager from scratch. So what you can actually do is, first thing that you have to do is to define a group. Now group is actually, you can consider group to be a class of document, like to which particular class this document belong, or to which particular category this particular, to which particular industry this document belongs to. So in my case, the document belongs to glass industry. So I'm selecting glass industry. Now, the second thing that you have to do is you have to add a category, because even in one industry, you can have multiple different kinds of documents available. So it could be an invoice, it could be some kind of bill or anything else. So in my case, it is an invoice. So I'm going to select invoice. Finally, what you have to do is, in order to define a glass industry document that is of type invoice, you have to hit on add new document type. When you add a new document type, what you need to do here is you need to define what is the name of the document. Let us call this invoice 1. And group and category, as you can see, are already defined. And finally, you can also give it an document code. It is an option value. You can also skip it. Now, what you have to do is you have to define what are the fields that you want to extract from a particular document. So I can say that, let me open the document again. So I want to extract date here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say date field is a field that I want to extract. Now keep in mind that it is not necessary for you to give the exact name, but it is always preferable. So I'm going to write date here, and I'm going to specify that it is of type date. So you can also give the format, but I'm just going to say save. And again, I can also define another field here. I'm going to say invoice hash. So I'm going to say here invoice hash, essentially invoice number only. And as you can see here, it is of type number. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say that it is of type number and hit on save. And finally, I'm going to define here the total amount. And let us say that it is also of type text and hit on save. Now we have defined our document, and we have also defined what are the fields that we want to extract. All we need to do now is we just need to hit on save. Since I've already defined a particular document in my workflow, I'm going to hit on cancel. and let us just see what is available in services. So you can see that I'm having invoice, due date, and total available. I am just going to close this, and our taxonomy has been defined. Now, talking about where this data is saved. So as soon as you define a particular taxonomy, this document processing folder is created, and within this folder you are having taxonomy.json available. So if you will open this, you can see here all the data that we defined. For example, I defined a particular document in the glass industry. It is of, let me zoom in a bit. It is of category invoice. And these are the fields that I defined. So first field was invoice hash, second field was due date, and final field was total. So these are the fields that I defined. Okay. With that, let me just go back to my slides and also load this. So this is the role of taxonomy. You define what you want to extract within a taxonomy. Now, in order to create a workflow that could use that particular taxonomy, what we have to do is we have to understand that we have to understand how a document, what is the structure of the document, whether we have to know these kind of details, like whether our document is having a static structure, or whether our document is having a very dynamic structure, or document is scanned or native or anything. So we need to know those kind of information beforehand. But in front of you is a very generic workflow in which you define a taxonomy. Then the second step is to load the same taxonomy. Then you digitize the document. Once digitized, you can extract the data from that document with the help of either form, regular expression, or ML extractor. Then you can use present validation station to actually validate that particular document. Present validation station is used to validate the document on your screen or on your machine. Okay, so the validation is not going to go anywhere, and essentially the bot is going to ask the specific user who triggered this particular bot to validate the document in hand. Then once the document has been validated, we are going to export the validation results. And finally, whatever data set we receive after validation, after exporting, we are going to write that data set in an Excel. Okay, so with that, let's talk about our first extractor, which is regex extractor. In this extractor, we use regular expression to extract the desired data. And this is used for extraction of the data from the structured documents. So if you know that, that your data is going to be available in a very specific format, for example, if there is an invoice number text available, then after that, there will be a 9-digit invoice number. You can actually target those kind of fields with the help of regular expression extractor. And let us see how do we do that in UiPath. So the first thing, like I told you, we have to do is to load the taxonomy. And in order to load the taxonomy, you have to use, let me just zoom in a bit. We have to use load taxonomy activity. Once we have loaded the taxonomy, the second step is to digitize the document. And in order to do that, we are going to use digitize document activity. In digitize document activity, you have to pass the document path. And then you will be getting document text and DOM, or document object model, as an output. Question is, what is DOM? So DOM is nothing but it contains information about the document structure. So it can contain information in regards to pages, the sections where your text is available, what is the language of the text. It can also contain information about word groups, and it can also contain some information about word position, index in the text, OCR confidence level, so on and so forth. Okay, once you have digitized the document, once you have raw data available with you, the next thing that you have to do is you have to actually use data extraction scope. Right now, as you can see, we are not classifying a document. We are going to talk about that as well. But very basic, if you are talking about very basic kind of document extraction or data extraction, this is it. So after classifying the document, after digitizing the document, we are using data extraction scope to extract the data from here. And as you can see, most of the stuff is going, as you're going to notice, most of the stuff is going to repeat. Most of the stuff that we defined in multiple activities are going to repeat. So stuff such as taxonomy, stuff such as document path, all of these things basically repeats. But once you define all of these things, the one unique thing in data extraction scope is document type ID. The question is, there are two questions here now. What is document type ID and how do I get its value? As I told you in the beginning, like document, you can process multiple documents within a particular, you can process multiple different kinds of documents within a single workflow. But question arises, the question arises, how do you actually, how do you actually identify a specific document? Because I could have 50 different types of document available with us. How can I identify that I'm processing 20th type of document? You can identify that with the help of either document type ID or either with the help of classification result. Since we are not talking about classification result as of now, let us focus here. And how do we, I'm addressing the second question, how do I get its value? You can basically get its value with the help of taxonomy.json. So notice here, it is saying document type ID. If I open taxonomy.json, here, can you see right here on the fifth line, we are having document type ID available. Let me zoom in a bit. So here we are having document type ID available. You need to actually copy this ID and paste it right here. Using that, you can actually extract the data from a specific document. Okay, once that is done, you can use, once that is done, now you have actually loaded the data within a particular, you have actually loaded the data within your, you can say within this particular activity. But how to extract the data? For that, we are having multiple extractors here, out of which we chose regular expression extractor or regex extractor. Let me just search for extractor. So you can see that we are having different types of extractor available here. Form, intelligent form, machine learning, and regex based extractor. We use a regex based extractor here. We have to, once placed here, we have to configure the extractor. And then, as you can see here, I am having one category of document available here, which is services. And if I will expand this, I'm having invoice type. I'm having the fields that I have to extract from this services document. So from the services document, I can extract, you can see I have to extract 3 different fields. And for each field, I have defined different, different regular expressions. Now, in order to define regular expression, what you can do is you can actually just simply, after the digitization of this particular document, you can just add like write text activity here. So test like input.txt. And you can actually analyze what is the input of this particular, how well we have, digitized this particular document and how to define the regular, and you can also define the regular expression with the help of this text. Okay, I'm sorry, I have to actually place this thing here and I have to say digitized text here. Okay. Okay. So once we have defined the regular expressions here, that what is the exact regular expression we have to use in order to extract invoice number, due date, and total, what we need to do is we have to configure the extractor, because keep in mind that, as you can see, we can place multiple activities here. So I can actually bring in form extractor and I can bring in machine learning extractor. Okay. So let me just hit on cancel here as of now. So you can see that currently we're having 3 different extractors available with us, but it's quite probable that some of the fields are being extracted well enough from one extractor and some of the fields are not extracted well enough from another extractor. So in order to deal with that kind of scenario, what you have to do is you have to actually configure the extractor. And for that, you're going to hit on configure extractor, and then you're going to expand the services panel. Here you can see that as of now, we have selected everything from regular expression based extractor. But if you're having multiple types of extractors such as form and machine learning available, you will be seeing multiple options or multiple columns available here as well. Also, what you can do is you can actually define confidence percentage here. Basically, for form based extractor, it does not make much sense because it is either hit or miss, because we are not, we are not using any kind of intelligence service. As of now, we are just extracting the data with the help of regular expressions. So I have said that extract all of these 3 fields from regex based extractor, and I'm going to hit on save. So once the document has been saved, we are going to use present validation station to validate the document again You can see that almost all the parameters are repeating here. Just one parameter is extra here, which is automation extraction result, which is the output of our previous activity. Just one second. As you can see here, as you can see, raw automation extraction result is having an input of raw extractions, and raw extraction is the output of data extraction score. Once human has validated the output, we are going to pass that human validated output to export extraction results, because we are just doing a type conversion here. So we are converting the type of extraction result to data set. And then we are going to use that data set to write it in a data table, or essentially an Excel file. So let me just run this particular bot and let me explain to you what is going on in this workflow. Okay, so we have loaded the document and we have also digitized the document. One thing to notice here is we have used OmniPage OCR here. You can use any OCR that fits your exact need right here. If you're talking about any free OCR, then I would recommend OmniPage OCR. But again, sometimes the Tesseract OCR or the Microsoft OCR works best. So in some scenarios, they might work best. In some scenario, OmniPage works best. So you have to actually do kind of a POC, in order to extract data from your specific kind of a document. But in this scenario, what we did was we extracted raw data, and then we passed it to the data extraction scope. And finally, with the help of regular expression extractor, we extracted some data from them, essentially 3 fields. And now we are here at present validation station. So let us see the output of present validation station. So in present validation station, as you can see, all the fields are extracted. And as I told you, since nothing intelligent is going on here, so output is having, by default, it is having a confidence level of 100%. So it is either going to be 100% or it is going to be 0 if nothing is extracted. Okay, nothing in between in case of regular expressions. So yeah, I think output looks good here. What you can actually do is you can even click here to highlight the position on the screen where the output is extracted, from where the output is extracted. And this is really important. Like I told you, DOM. DOM actually enables us to do this kind of things, document object model. It knows where exactly the text is available, what is the location of it in my particular document. And through that only, I'm able to highlight the text on the screen as well. As you can see here, each and every text that I have extracted, even this date is highlighted. And as you can also notice here, date is being extracted perfectly. Even its data type is also date, because it can actually tell me that day is 21, month is 7, and year is 2016. So with everything properly validated, I will just hit on continue, and now we are at for each. So why do we need for each here? Because we need for each here because the output of our validated results or the raw extraction results are essentially data tables. And we have 2 types of data tables available here. Let me show you what are those. So if I will say dataset output dot tables, you can see that we are having 2 different types of tables available here. One is simple fields, which is having raw data, okay, without any formatting. And the another one is simple fields, but with formatting. So this is actually having your data available in a formatted way. So probably if you have extracted any integer data, the formatted fields will be having it in decimal format. Or like you must have noticed, the invoice number was actually having 0.00 at the very end. I'm just going to hit on continue. And okay, I just noticed that it actually wrote it in ML extractor output. So let me just open that particular file. And as you can see here, the entire data is extracted in proper manner. So also notice the difference. Let me zoom in a bit. Also notice the difference. In simple fields, the invoice hash is available without any decimal numbers. But in formatted way, in formatted sheet, we are having the invoice hash available with decimal digits. So that's it. And let me see if there is any. Okay, that is great. So let me just close this particular screen, and I think I have to rush a bit. So let me just go back to my slide and let us talk about form extractor. So form extractor can be used in those scenarios where your form is where the position of your data is essentially kind of fixed, and the structure of your document, you are sure enough that the structure of the document is not going to change. So in the case of form extractor, what you need to do, so in the case of form extractor, you can actually create template, and you can create multiple templates for a given document. For example, you see that for a given document type, some fields are changing. So its location. So you can actually create multiple document highlighting those particular fields. And what you can actually do is what UiPath is going to do is it is intelligently going to determine that which template is best suited for a particular scenario of a document. It is going to pick that particular template and it is going to start processing that. Okay. Now let me just quickly go back to UiPath and let me load my form-based extractor. So as you can see, the basic steps are same. We have to load the taxonomy. We have to digitize the document. Also, let me see. Okay. We have to load the taxonomy. We have to digitize the document. And now there is one thing different. We have also added a classified document scope. So what is this? So like I told you earlier that we can actually classify, we can process multiple document types in a single workflow. We can just by defining or just by hard coding the value in the, just by defining the value in the document type ID. But that is sort of cheating. Why? Because if you think about it, if I've hard coded the document type ID here, that means our workflow is only limited to processing of that particular document. Okay. Now, if I want to process any other document, I have to actually change the document type ID. So in order to solve this problem, what we did was we actually we are actually having an option of classifying the document. So what this particular thing is going to do, this is going to classify a document and each and every page available in it with the help of keyword-based classifier. So if I will open manage learning here, you can see that we have defined a couple of keywords here, such as invoice, due date, total, and so on and so forth. These keywords, these keywords are actually defined in a keyword.json file. And what this file does is this file acts as a repository to map a particular document to like to map all the keywords to a particular document. So let's say if I'm extracting data from an invoice, I can easily say that that will be having keyword of invoice, due date, and something else. And if I'm extracting data from a bill, so it might be having the data, the keywords such as total amount and let's say bill of purchase, so on and so forth. So this thing is actually going to map every keyword with specific document. With that done, it is now our classified document scope is actually going to use this activity to classify the documents, and it is going to output the entire result in an array. Now, what you can actually do is, let's say you want to see how well the classification was done. So you are also having classification validation station available here. Due to restriction of time, I'm not going to discuss about it, but essentially it is similar to present validation station, and you can actually validate validate the classification as well. You can actually train your keyword-based classifier as well with the help of intelligent keyword classifier trainer or intelligent or simple classifier-based or keyword-based classifier trainer. Okay. Now remaining steps are pretty same, but only one thing is changing here. If you will, now here we have replaced the regular expression activity with form extraction activity. Here, obviously, you will be needing API keys that you can easily extract from your orchestrator. And if you will go to manage templates, here you can see that I have defined a template. And let me edit this quickly. It is taking some time to load. Okay, so you can see that the first thing that I've done is I have identified this particular document with 5 keywords on the screen. Close this. It is loaded multiple times. Okay, the first thing that I have done is I have identified this particular document type with 5 keywords. This is just for selection of documents. selection of a template. And then I have simply, what I did was I simply dragged my cursor over a specific area where I expect my data to be available. And then I mapped it to this, to the specific field. So it is really easy. If you want to map any particular field, you can simply drag your cursor over it by activating the selection mode. As you can see, the glass got activated. I can click on custom area and I can simply click on this plus icon to map this particular area to this particular field. So once all the fields have been mapped properly, what you can do is you can hit on save. I'm just going to close this as of now, and your template is going to be created. Another thing that you can do is that you can actually export this particular template so that these templates could be saved to be used in some other projects as well. And similarly, you can import them using the import button. I'm just going to close this, and just like last time, you have to actually define the extractor here. So currently I'm defining that all the details are to be extracted from my, the form-based extractor. And once done, here is something new. We are actually creating a document validation action. Earlier, we were having present validation action. Now we are creating document validation action in the orchestrator. So this is something different. Okay, so we are creating an action just like the action that we created the first time, the task that we created in the beginning of our session. We are creating an action here, and now instead of instead of a human validating the task on the screen, on the machine where the bot is running, a human will be validating the task on the orchestrator. So you can kind of think that we can actually achieve an unattended mode with the help of this option. And once the task has been submitted, obviously we have to wait for that task to be completed. And whatever output we are going to get, we are going to pass that output to export extraction result, and we are going to write our data tables. So let me quickly run this bot. So when the bot is going to, so as you can see here, digitization of the document is being done. Guys, keep in mind that the number of pages that you're having now is directly proportional to the amount of time it is going to take to digitize a document, to digitize a particular document. So higher number of pages means more time it is going to take to digitize a document. So yes, as you can see, the document has been classified, and we have also extracted the results from here. And one very important thing is here. Let me just scroll up a bit. As you can see here, in classification result, we are having classification result array passed, which is the output of a classified document scope. Keep in mind, this thing we have essentially just placed the output here, but you have to actually add a for loop so that each and every page could be processed, which is available in a single document. So as of now, as you can see, just like last time of the task extractor, the task has been created in the orchestrator, and it is waiting, our process is waiting for that task to be completed. If I hit on resume, you will be noticing that it is not going to go anywhere, and it is again going to show us the same message. So I'm simply going to go to my orchestrator. And in unassigned tab, you can notice here, I'm having a form-based extractor. I'm going to assign it to myself. It is going to show me two things. On the right-hand side, we will be seeing the document, and on the left-hand side, we will be seeing all the values that we have to actually validate. And as you can see, since we are using an intelligent service here, it is actually showing us what was the confidence level of the extraction. So you can see that 65% it is confident that we are talking about services document. And for the extraction, it is 98%, 86%, and again 98% confident that it has successfully extracted the field that was requested for, which is invoice, due date, and total. So since I have validated everything, I'm just going to hit on save and continue. And once this is done, I can go to the bot. I can hit on resume. Again, guys, this is just for demo that I'm doing this, like I'm hitting on resume, but in actual production kind of a scenario, you won't be doing it. With that done, I'm going to go here in the project panel, and I'm going to open the form extractor output data. So I think I have to refresh this, and I am having form extractor output data available here. And as you can see, the same kind of output is now available here. So now let's quickly go through the last type of extractor. And before that, let me explain you one thing more about form extractor. So as I told you, form extractor is heavily dependent upon the area. So there are two types of area that you might think of. First is the defined area, and another one is detected area, the detected data which is available there. So defined area, let's say you have given the coordinates of the defined area, but it's quite possible that when the intelligent of when the form extractor is processing it, the data might be available a bit to the left or a bit to the right. So that's why in the form extractor, let me open form extractor here, we are having a property of minimum overlap percentage. As you can see here, the default is 65%. It means that if this overlap of the defined area, green is defined area and red is, let's say, detected area, is more than 65%, we are good to go. We can extract the data. But if it is any less than 65%, we are going to skip that data, and essentially we are going to decrease the confidence level as well. So in form extractor, confidence level is heavily dependent upon the overlap, or on the amount of overlap that form extractor is going to get. Okay, so we talked about keyword classifiers. We can classify a document with the help of keyword-based classifiers. And when you implement a classification scope, the entire workflow modifies like this. So we have our load taxonomy, digitized document, and then finally we are having classified document. We are having classifying document scope. We are also having classifier validation station, which means that we can actually validate the classifier. Then we can train the classifier. For example, you can define that, okay, specific keywords are not actually able to classify documents. I can define some other keywords in real time. Once the classification part is completed, we are going to select a classification result and we are going to implement a for loop. If the page is available, we are going to process that page. And finally, once all the pages have been processed, we are going to go to, we are going to end the process, and we are simply going to write the data somewhere or use it for further processing. Now let's talk about ML extractor. ML extractor use ML model, which is provided by UiPath for extraction of data. It should be used for those kind of documents in which structure is not at all defined. And in order to use this particular kind of extractor, you need to have UiPath document understanding.ml activities installed. Now there are two types of endpoints available as of now. One is receipts.uipath.com and another one is invoices.uipath.com. Also keep in mind, you might have to append some OData here in order, if you are using let's say enterprise level of document understanding. But as of now, since we are focusing on the community version, you can directly use this. Again, there are some community limitations available. For example, you can only process 50 requests per hour and only 2 pages per request are allowed. Okay, so let me go back to UiPath and let me just quickly walk you through the ML-based extractor. I know we are over time, so I'm just going to wrap it up now. So starting is very similar to all the workflows. We have to load the taxonomy, digitize the document, then we have to classify the document. Once the classification is done, as you can see here, we are also having present classification station, which essentially means that we can actually validate our classification result. Then we also have train classifier scope, which allows us to train the particular classifier. And finally, once the document has been classified, we are going to pass that classified result to the machine learning extractor. Now you can see that machine learning extractor does not have any kind of definition available here about the data. For example, you must have noticed in regular expression extractor, we define regular expressions, and in form-based extractor, we define area here. But as of now, this is not having anything because already the machine learning model has already been trained for extraction of a couple of fields. And in order to see what kind of fields you can extract, you have to go to configure extractor. And in here, just expand this, and right off the bat, you can see there is a drop down available. If you will hit on drop down, you can see there are many options available here for you to extract. Sometimes you might want to tinker through all of these options if you are not able to extract the data with the help of very specified field. For example, there is an invoice number field also available here, but I found that for me, billing name actually gives me the correct result. So you might want to tinker with this thing. Once you have selected the proper date, as you can see, due date is available properly in due date only, and total is available in total only. But I was able to extract invoice number, not with the help of invoice number field, but with the help of billing name field. Okay, with that done, we are going to do the similar kind of play here. And let me just run the bot We are going to validate the output, and finally we are going to write the output. Guys, please keep in mind that the API key is really important here. And in order to extract the key while the bot is running, let me show you how you can extract the key. So platform.uipath.com. All you need to do is you need to go to admin. Under admin, you have to go to licenses and other services. Copy this key. Okay. Copy this API key and paste it in your form-based extractor. And the another one is your ML extractor. So I'm going to run the classifications station scope. And here you can see that our document has been classified properly. I can see everything is fine. And if I want to see what keywords actually allowed us to classify this document, so I can highlight them as well. Okay, I think API key is old here. So let me just copy this key. I'm going to make sure to provide the link to this particular workflow somehow, so that you can also refer this. Let us just complete this particular task. So the document has been digitized. We are running the present classification station here. Let us quickly hit on save. We are running the ML extractor. And once the API calls have been made and everything and the data has been properly extracted, we are going to validate that data with the help of present validation station. And then, guys, I would really appreciate if you could mute your mic. And once validated, again we are going to write this data in the in an Excel. So I'm going to go to ML extractor output data. And just like that, we are having our data extracted now with the help of the machine learning model. So with that, we are done with all the extractors, and let us wrap this particular session by discussing what type of ML models we are having. So we are having invoice extraction and receipt models. We are also having some generic semi-structured extraction models. Some of the more early release models that we have are purchase order extraction, utility bills, and invoices that are specific to India, Australia, and Japan. So you can basically tinker with all of them, and you can analyze how well they perform, and you can actually train your own model with the help of AI Fabric and a lot of things. AI Fabric, and you can actually explore Data Manager as well if you want to actually generate the data set for AI, for training of document understanding model, which is available on AI Fabric. But with that, we are done with today's session. So let me see if we have any questions here.
It was really wonderful session, Ishmi. Thank you so much. I will take a glass of water and we'll see if we have any questions.
Sure. So I can see that. Thank you, Niklesh, and everyone, because I can see you all already, answering a lot of questions here for me. So thank you so much. And yeah, I can see there are no questions. So Niklesh.
Yeah, if we don't have any questions, guys, we'll wait for 1 minute for questions. If we don't have, then we immediately will wrap up because it's already been late.
Hi, Ishmeet. Priyanka this side.
Hi, Priyanka.
Yeah, thanks for the wonderful session and demo with both form extractor and ML extractor. I just want to ask you, suppose there is a scenario where, we have a lots of utility bills. Okay. So it is a category, one category, but we have to extract the data like from a different vendor. So utility bill is having a different vendor, and each vendor is having a different format of document, and we have to capture a data from that particular document. So how do we tackle that scenario?
Okay, like I told you, we are having categories and we are also having groups. And what I like to think of groups is like you said, you can think of them as vendors or you can think of them as a particular company. So you can actually define for multiple vendors, you can define multiple groups, and within that group, you can define multiple categories. And through that, you can actually tackle that. Okay, for this particular vendor, I want to extract only these fields. Now coming to like how do you actually extract the data for it? So since you told me that you are having some invoice kind of data, so I would recommend you to explore the invoice machine learning model, because I have seen most of the data is easily extracted with the help of that. Otherwise, if the data is really in a structured format, I would recommend you to use the form based extractor. And as a more practical solution, if you think that the data that you have to extract is not that much, I would really recommend you to use just a native, PDF reading and just try to extract the data with the help of regular expressions. That is the first thing that I do while extraction of the document. Document understanding is actually for the more advanced level kind of an extraction.
Okay, so we will be needing only one extractor, right? That will be enough to capture all the data, like data from a different vendor format.
Well, yes, and sort of no. See, it totally depends upon the type of data that you are dealing with. Okay, so even with machine learning extractor or anything, it's quite possible you won't be able to extract a very specific kind of a detail that is very, customized kind of a detail that is available for you. For example, you must have seen in many times you're having a table available in the document, and when dealing with tables, when dealing with line items, most of the times where I have faced a problem is the extraction of some identifier or some kind of description, or but basically multiple line kind of things where the data in the table is available on multiple lines. So for that, it's preferred that you either use multiple extractor or you use data manager. Again, data manager is sort of like more advanced concept here, because data manager allows you to generate data set for, it allows you to define what kind of data you want to extract. Using data manager, you can generate the data set for your machine learning extractor, and using that data set, you can actually train your machine learning model and use that particular model in UiPath. So this is kind of a flow that I think you should follow. But again, coming back to the basics, you should always try with the very basic thing, which is either with the help of regular expressions or form-based extractor. If you can extract it, I think that is the way to go.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for the information. Thank you.
Welcome. Any other questions?
So thanks for your answer, Ishmit. I think we don't have any questions, so we'll wrap up this session. So
Yeah, just one more thing that I've just shared two links. One is for the MVP program. So MVP program is kind of highest recognition that community offers to our community members for their outstanding involvement in the community. So you might want to visit that, and if you think that you should be next MVP, do apply. And second program is Insider program. So Insider program is basically that gives you early builds, access to early builds of new features and updates. And also it is an opportunity to influence and shape our product's roadmap alongside UiPath team. So but in that case, you will really need your official email ID. Otherwise, you will not be able to get access to it. That's all I think,
yes,
Thank you
guys,
so
you
much,
please browse
Ishmit.
the. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Ishmit.
Niklesh and everyone. And in case you have any other question, Niklesh has already shared a lot of LinkedIn details for us. So yeah, always welcome for any inputs, any feedback, any suggestion, anytime. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Happy weekend, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time. Cheers.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Niklesh, for having me.